Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, delighted to be talking a second time with creator Justin Coe. Justin, thank you for jumping back in and joining for a second chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I've got a lot coming out right now, but it'll probably slow down here in a bit. So, you
I
know,
was going to say you're prolific. I think we talked about a month ago, month and a half ago.
yeah, well, it's more that it took me 3 years to actually get to the point where I can start doing these when I had completed art and stuff like that. So that's the biggest hurdle, really. But uh, yeah, so no, but Edge of Darkness is it's completely different from SWAT, the thing I came here for the first time for. It's in terms of mood, aesthetic, everything. It's just very different. Uh,
Hmm.
it's kind of a biopunk, like far future sci-fi thing. It's kind of
Yeah,
like if Dune didn't have spice and have an underwater, maybe. David Lynch's Dune, not the recent one.
yeah,
But
yeah.
not that there was anything wrong with the most recent one. But actually there was. The first I never understood why people hated science fiction until the first 90 minutes of the first Dune movie with what's his butt?
Oh
I
yeah,
love.
Timothy Chalamet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean he's fine. It's just there's so many scenes of people in ridiculous outfits having boring expositional conversations. So I'm like, I get it now. I get it.
Right,
Why
right.
people hate science fiction. Okay. So that's dramatic, but I mean the back half was pretty good.
Yeah,
Anyway, Edge of Darkness is completely different. It's a biopunk undersea thing. Leonardo Romanelli, who's I think a very interesting artist out of Italy, did the is doing the art. Uh, so
hmm.
stylistically, it's not like anything I've really ever seen in a comic. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but that
Bits and
might
pieces. I've seen parts of it. Yeah. Yeah.
it's very interesting style wise, and I'm pretty excited about the project. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a 6 issue thing. It's way shorter than SWAT. So that's a positive too, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I also love how you're exploring sort of different tones, different parts of genre. So, very different from SWAT in many ways, but an interesting take for sure. Any inspirations, any parts of the process that you'd like to talk about as far as how the ideas came to be?
Well, I mean, I've always been kind of fascinated with. I was reading a bunch of different books. Um, there's a book about. It was a pretty recent science book about basically it's about the Umwelt of, which is a German philosophical term for like the experience, the total package of being, right? For like a
Hmm.
bumblebee is very different from that of mine, and so they're experiencing a completely different universe in a completely different way. And I've always been really fascinated with that. And so that's part of what Edge Artist is about, is because what they do is they live deep underwater and it's all biological technology, right? There's no metal or anything. So it's all grown in vats or chiseled or something. Uh,
Hmm.
but what they do is they grow suits like a giant squid that's sort of like a spatchcock chicken, and it just sort of folds around you and
Yeah.
provides you life support. And then you become the brain for this suit. And so you're flying around, you're swimming around the dark ass ocean, but you have the sensory perception of a squid or something, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of about exploring that. It's also kind of mostly about emotionally, it's about like emerging from depression, but it's also kind of about wearing squid suits. So yeah, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, and then so visually it starts out like pretty oppressive, right? Like it's very claustrophobic, and because that's another. I've always been fascinated with scuba diving. I am technically a scuba diver. I've gone on like two of them. And there's something about pulling yourself down a rope while there's giant ass jellyfish over there.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's an experience, it's just something. Um, it was a bit extra. So and then I've had other experiences where I was snorkeling and like reef sharks whipped around, the reef, and then there's like these 6 foot long great white looking things right next to me and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of experiences with the ocean that were scary or could be scary if you wanted to make them. Um, so I took advantage of that with Edge of Darkness. So
Yeah. Right. Kind of that feeling of entering a completely different world, as you were talking about, like the experience of a bumblebee. When you step into the water, there's a completely different like sense of balance there. There's a different way that things operated, kind of a different order of physics there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's a very hostile environment. Like you need to leave soon.
Yeah.
Uh, right. So it's definitely a very different feeling from being over the in the air. But yeah, I mean, so it plays a lot with that, and then it's sort of visually, I kind of combine the entire history of the Earth's oceans into one thing, right? So
Hmm.
there's stuff that got that went extinct a billion years ago, right next to something that went extinct 300 million years ago, and then also a thing that's just here, currently alive or whatever. So it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense, like from a geological perspective, but I think visually it's really cool. Um, yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you
actually,
mentioned,
I
oh,
got
sorry,
this
go
a
ahead.
couple of days ago, which
Oh,
is
cool.
the Helicorpion, which is one of the add-ons to the Kickstarter campaign. It's an extinct shark that had like a saw blade mouth.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's one of the things that's in the comic. Um, so I liked it enough that I was like, let's get a tattoo of this. This is cool. So
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it sounds like there was some research that went into the process and bringing in some creatures, some ideas that you had to sort of go and sort out a little bit.
there was definitely some Googling of insane ocean creatures. There was a couple of instances of that. Um, what inspired it specifically was actually a book about, it's called Beneath the Edge of Darkness, which is a memoir slash science book by this marine biologist about living beneath the edge of darkness, which is the point at which the sun doesn't penetrate anymore. So that moves during the day, and that's like a huge part of the ocean ecosystem.
Hmm.
Right? Night, the edge is everything. So everything goes up to the surface, and then as the sun comes back, they all go back to hiding beneath the edge of darkness.
Hmm.
So there's this layer of camouflage in the ocean. I could probably ramble about this in ways I shouldn't because I don't really know what I'm talking about, but it's a really fascinating topic. And then the use of bioluminescence in the ocean by the creatures, it's everything, right? It's communication, it's a lure, it's camouflage. They use it for everything. So even though there is no light, light is way more important than when it is everywhere. And it's in a weird way. Um, so I had a lot of fun with that stuff too. But yeah, so I mean, there was multiple elements of science and just sort of long term. I don't know, my fixations getting into the thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I imagine that it was quite the process also to try to put those things into words and then to see them come back in some sort of visual way. So any part of that process as far as the birth of the project that you'd like to mention?
well, I mean, we've only done 7 pages so far, but this was kind of early on. Leonardo had a couple of sections in the first 7 pages. We are like, dude, no, we're not going to be able to do this in one page. We're going to need to break it into 2 pages or something like that. So I mean, there's a lot of learning about the sort of the craft of comic writing, where how much can you really fit into a page?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
how much should you fit into the page? Is two separate questions, I guess, somewhat. But so there's a lot of learning there. Leonardo's been a really amazing. Like he not only meets deadlines, he actually beats them, which is just like a unicorn trait for
Yeah.
that's Michael Jordan shit for comic artists, honestly. So he's been a lot of fun to work with. Um, like legitimately, what he's doing is crazy. I love it, and he also does it ahead of time, right? So I'm not going to tell him he should raise his rates, but he should probably raise his rates. But anyway, yeah,
After
yeah,
this project, yeah.
except for me, except for me. No, but he's really been a lot of fun to work with, and so it's been a pleasure to do. In a weird way, I don't know if it's like maybe it's. I feel like people are almost more able to get this than they were SWAT, which is the reverse of what I thought would happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I don't know, maybe the weirdness of it's odd. But yeah, anyway. But no, it's quite. I think it's pretty interesting. My wife accuses me of having invented a subgenre of sci-fi. I don't know if that's entirely true, but it's not that far off, honestly.
Yeah.
I know that probably sounds insane, but it kind of, you don't see a lot of this, I don't think. Um, so it's pretty tough. I'm pretty proud of this one as well. So
Awesome, awesome. Now you talked about it as kind of a metaphor for depression, and I think people tend to think there's a lot of depression in the world. I also think there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of like just willful joy when you could choose ignorance or depression. So I'm curious about what the story allowed you to explore as far as some of those themes and ideas.
well, I mean, yeah. So Haimo is the hero of the piece, and he sort of starts out as bottom tier, what they call an eel man, and they just put him in the shittiest suit that has no safety precautions at all, and it's like, go get and come back, and if you don't come back, right? So he witnesses the suicide of one of his colleagues, who's just like, I'm fucking done. I'm gonna go get eaten by a kraken and just end it this way. So he's
Hmm.
like sitting across the ocean trying to attract attention. He gets eaten by the kraken, and it kind of starts from there. And it's kind of he just sort of decides, like, basically, fuck it, I'm going to do stuff, right?
Hmm.
Just going
Hmm.
to start doing what I want to do and screw it. And that's sort of his emergence from the depression, is him no longer caring about all the rules that people have put in place for him. And he just starts doing stuff that he wants to do, which is kind of how it works. But also, it's one of those things where it sounds, it's good advice, but to somebody who needs it, they're like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You
Right,
know,
right.
and that's the paradox of it, right? But um, yeah, I mean, he just sort of is presented with an opportunity. He takes it, and it kind of just runs from there. So
Nice. Yeah.
I'm just
So you
looking
mentioned
forward.
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say you mentioned that you're well into the project with a number of pages. Any sort of vision that you'd like to share as far as what you'd like to put together in totality with them?
Well, no, I mean, the 6 pages or the 6 issues are it. I originally wrote 18, and then the editor was like, so I chucked 12 of them and just kept the basic six, which is probably a right decision. Um, but it's there could be sequels, there could be any number of things, I guess, but for right now it's just the six,
Hmm.
and I think that's pretty much it for now. I don't really have any desire to continue it, but you definitely could. If you want to write fan fiction about it, go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So something to tuck away, something to come
yeah.
back to. Yeah. So if I'm a listener and I want to find out more, if this is kind of piquing my interest, and if I want to see SWAT, see your work, where would be some places that I might go?
Well, I'm on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm at Justin Cook Real. And then, of course, on Kickstarter, we're on Edge of Darkness is on Kickstarter, so you can Google it there. Do you have the promotional link?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be a promotional link probably somewhere on this video where you can click, and
Hmm.
we're launching on the 2nd, so there won't be that long uh before the campaign's live. Actually, probably by the time this is released, it'll be live, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
it's live right now. Go to that link, and then we have we've got some stickers of various deep sea creatures that have been extinct for God knows how long. And then of course the comic itself. So
Nice, nice. How long is the campaign running?
we're going from the 2nd to the 22nd.
Nice. Okay.
Keeping it short because 30 days is really too long. Like, there's a good solid 2 weeks and nothing happening in the middle there. So
Yeah.
you might as well just go start, end, and then be done. It's the same thing. Hopefully, anyway. Um, so yeah, and then of course, then this time of year, I was basically told, like, don't even start anything after this until February, because nothing's gonna happen. So
Nice.
Christmas dominates the calendar, even in indie comics, apparently. So
It's its own, there's like a culture to everything. So it's nice to have those insiders that can kind of tell you those spots to be
it
working.
it sounds like it's kind of the same calendar. I'm a bankruptcy attorney, and
Hmm.
so the calendar depends on Okay, so tax return season, yes, let's get, yeah. Pray
Uh-huh.
back to normal, start of the school year, back down. Got like 1 month of normal and then Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's that's the I think that happens in multiple industries, honestly.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, basically, it's a rough guide to how much disposable income people have, I guess. But
True.
um,
True enough.
so well, anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Well, glad to have you back to talk about Edge of Darkness. It sounds fascinating, and from what I've seen, it looks really interesting. And you mentioned that you have several projects that you're currently exploring, so hoping to hear more soon about the other genres, other stories that you're unlocking.
yeah. I mean, there's I've got quite a few. The problem is not that I don't have ideas; it's that I just can't get past like the second issue on any of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, my one of my more recent ones called Department of God, and it's two angels that are in charge with delivering justice in the world, and they're so backlogged that they just end up murdering 92-year-olds all the time. Uh, and so that's one issue in. The first issue is great. The second issue has been a bit of a challenge. So we'll see if that turns into anything or not. But um, yeah, I'm trying. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, awesome that you're getting the ideas out there, exploring the universes, and glad to share about your work. Glad to have you back for a third chat anytime.
all right, sounds good. Talk to you soon.
All right, sounds great. Thanks.